Got to find. Hang on a minute. Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of the Green Flag Weekly Podcast. Sorry for the delay of last week's one. I did unfortunately have an extremely busy week, so hopefully to make up for it, we're going to have hopefully double the news, double the content, and probably double the amount of people here as well. Because instead of just the regular three, we've got a fourth person. So to help me call all the action today, we've got Mr. Tom Stanley. So Tom, if people don't know, he runs the F1 Racing Mad YouTube channel and just races about every sim possible, I think. So definitely worth a check out. And also joined by Mike Bell and Michael Gray. So how are you guys today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me as well, Ian.
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me here, especially very late in the evening for me. So yeah,
Okay, awesome stuff. So let's go straight into the deep end then. Now, we spoke last episode very highly of the Enduracers team and the mods they produced, obviously very, very famous modding community within the rFactor community, if you will. And they've actually received a legal inquiry from Porsche going in towards their new GT3 Cup Series mod. Now, unfortunately, well, it's a big, big letdown, unfortunately, for everyone involved, especially the guys working on it. The mod now will not be available for public download because Porsche, have, I think something to do with the licensing, and have forced them to withdraw it and stop working. Now, we said before, Enduraces produce some of the best rFactor mods out there, without a doubt. You just take a look at how many leagues are using them nowadays. I know, Mike, for instance, you're going to race the SRO American Le Mans Series, I believe, so they're going to have, I think that uses the Enduraces mod as well. I mean, that is a huge mod and used by thousands of people and for free as well. So to have this GT3 Cup Series coming, we saw the trailer, everyone was getting hyped. So to have this stopped, not only is like a big unfortunate event for the people working on it, but also for the fans who are waiting for it as well. But I think the main question here is, what does this mean for other mods and modding groups? Because we saw Automaniacs will suffer the same fate. And we've also seen that, F1 2012 will not have modding in it. We've seen a couple of other titles like Assetto Corsa. While it's got it, it won't be as in-depth. And if more car companies start taking this kind of approach and stop modding, how is this going to affect the sim racing community?
It won't do anything positive to it because it's just basically limiting what everyone can do if they're trying to mimic a real series or a real life series even.
Yeah, I think the thing is as well with these the Sims, a lot of the best content seems to come from modding, and all you got to do is look at rFactor. A lot of people buy rFactor for the mods. You've got virtually pretty much every F1 season ever. You've got touring cars, go karts, rally cars, just about everything on there. And as opposed to the stock content that comes with it, this would also put a bit more pressure, I think, on the game developers because, for instance, rFactor 2, yes, it's got the Formula 2 license. We'll get onto that in a minute, but it won't have, that kind of community if these companies start stamping out modding because a lot of people won't buy it because the cars they want, the tracks they want, won't be in there. You can't really go into a sim now and have, for instance, the Nordschleife there without it being modded or created. I think Project Cars have just introduced it, but again, that sort of community created that sort of thing. And I think, unfortunately, for sim racing, if this does keep happening with companies like Porsche stepping in, if other companies begin to kind of take knowledge of this and start doing the same, we may see an enter modding all round, and I think that's going to be a huge impact on the community.
I think it is just because, like, for me, I'm coming into sim racing a lot more. So I've got into iRace, I've got into Project Cars, and rFactor was the next one to get on my list for my PC. And when I was listening to the podcast, I was saying there's a GT3 Porsche Cup series coming to rFactor. I thought, oh, I've got to get it now. But as I've just heard the news from you, Liam, it is a massive shame because I was really looking forward to driving that car. And no, it's a shame that car companies are now coming towards these great modders in the community and blocking their projects because they create such a great package like the GT3 Cup Series and a variety of other ones that they include. And it is a massive shame. And I do hope it doesn't continue like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is as well is that obviously Enduracers Racers is used by so many people and they don't charge you anything for it. Now, if Porsche were clever, I think they would have recognized that, done a bit of research into the company, see what they do, how much publicity they get. All you've got to do is look at, a lot of sim racing leagues that run endurance style events and they pretty much all use a base Enduracers mod with skin packs, slight modifications on tracks, that sort of thing. And then maybe even turn it into a Porsche game. Now, obviously, Automaniac's come under a lot of legal stuff there, and I think that's still up in the air. No one truly knows what's happened there because there was a lot of trouble with Slightly Mad Studios as well. But I think that if Porsche were clever, they may, ask them to maybe develop a Porsche sim as opposed to just saying, right, we're going to block your mod and progress completely. Why not use it to their advantage and create a Porsche sim? Because, yeah, there are some good Porsche mods out there. But as we've said in previous episodes, a lot of drivers do complain about the Porsche mods and that they're not what they hoped for. With Forza was struggling to get the Porsches, and the only way you could get an official Porsche car up until a few months ago was on Need for Speed, and for the sim racing community, that wasn't what they wanted. They want to get in one of these great Porsche cars developed by a team where they know the car's going to feel right, it's going to look right, it's going to sound right. And they can't do that if they stop modding. And I think if more car companies start doing this, it will take one company, I think. Maybe like Ferrari, Ferrari are quite open to product licensing, that sort of thing. Someone like that to license, they've already got Ferrari Legends out quite recently, but someone like that to just get a modding team and create a sim for them, and I think that would be a big step forward, and then still allow the modding community to mod without halting any progress or stopping any content from reaching the community.
Yeah, that is a definite good point about that. I was thinking about that point, thinking I'm not sure why Porsche don't jump on the bandwagon and just try and convert the mod into like a small game, like just actually include all the extra tracks as well with the official cars and maybe some of the lower tier Porsche series as well, just so it's like a little training ground. Like, I think what doing the go karting like a lower end series and they're working their way up, so that could be a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll try and touch on that a little bit later as well. So on to the next bit of news then. There's been a lot of publicity considering rFactor 2 from, of course, ISI Studios, and they've released a lot of Formula 2 footage. One of them, of course, had a previous champion, Bachetta, doing a bit of testing in a Formula 2 sim with the rFactor, of course, running in the background. And we had a full-on video as well. I think it was a 3 to 6 minute video of the actual Formula 2 car being lapped in a race, and it looks extremely promising. Now, when the rFactor 2 beta first came out, a lot of people were quite upset with it, quite disappointed. They wasn't sure if there was going to be any progress made, if it was going to drop off, do they revert back to old sims? And there's been a lot of kind of hanging and waiting and lingering around, but now it's taken a lot of progress and a big step forward. And by gaining that license, a lot of guys watch Formula 2 on TV, and without having to make one physically or someone to go, right, okay, let's make a Formula 2 mod, it's going to take months. It's going to come out in the stock game, and I think this is going to be a big thing for them because they'll have all the drivers, all the cars, no kind of licensing issues, and I think it's going to draw a lot more people in, and especially when they look and sound as nice as they do with the rFactor 2 graphics engine. I think that finally rFactor 2 is beginning to take shape. Next bit of news, then back onto the consoles. Gran Turismo have actually announced Silverstone will be coming to Gran Turismo, and that's a big thing for them. Silverstone, one of the main tracks that was missing from the title, of course, it's very much loved by the British fans as well as the worldwide audience, and I think that shows as well that there is still life left in Gran Turismo. A lot of guys kind of not abandoning it, but using different sims now. Gran Turismo, they seem it's had its time, they've had their leagues, they've had the fun, and the much more promising content is coming from the PC market. But now with Silverstone coming, I think it could tempt a lot of people back into maybe picking up Gran Turismo again and giving it a whirl, depending on the prices. But with no foreseeable title coming in the future, I think this could be all we're getting from Gran Turismo now, just the odd track here and there. But providing the content is good and it's tracks people know and love, it's cars people know and love, I don't see any reason why it still can't maintain being one of the top sims on PS3.
I have played Gran Turismo, and it is nice to have still some in Gran Turismo now because a number of events that they did with GT Academy with actually testing on Silverstone, it would be a great feature for Gran Turismo. Just so if you have got GT Academy, for example, next year, they could base most of the tests in the game on Silverstone, so it'll be more accurate and more realistic thing as they go into real life driving.
Absolutely, I think that's a very good point because for those of you who don't know what the GT Academy is, it's a chance for pretty much anyone who owns the game to get their chance in a real life race car at Silverstone. I think if they now with Silverstone coming into the game, the actual test could be at Silverstone, as you said, and that's going to. I mean, some people may not like the track it's tested on. They may not have driven it before. So to have it at Silverstone, they know that's the track they'll drive in real life as well. So it could encourage them to drive a little bit more. I think what could be the best factor of that is that you're going to see. I mean, everyone knows Silverstone pretty much within the sim racing community. You know, you ask a sim racer about Silverstone, they could tell you about Maggots and Beckett's. They could tell you about the corner names, that sort of thing. And I think that because they know it, you're going to see a much more competitive field in that academy as well.
Definitely, I was going to come to that next point as well. With Silverstone coming to Gran Turismo, it'll probably make more field more very closely bunched, like in F1. It's very close because they've all gotten to the same track, and when they take it to the real world skills, it'll be quite close because they already know where the track is pretty much.
Absolutely, it will. And we've also gone on to another bit of news now. Now, NetCar Pro has been a bit quiet over the past couple of months. It's sort of disappeared into the darkness and a bit of calm before the storm. But there has actually been a release date for it now. So the boxed version has been announced and it will be hitting the store shelves on October 26th. Now, for the actual disc copy, it will be £14, €14 90 off of the Kunos website, or 18.99 off of Amazon. So it seems it could be a bit more pricier off Amazon at the moment. So we'll have to see kind of what develops there. But it's good to see NetCar Pro finally getting a bit more publicity again. So I'm not sure if any of you guys kind of took a look at it or played it, but I think it was again a little bit of a misfire. People weren't too impressed with it, but now it's finally gaining ground once again. It's going to be hitting shelves. Is this kind of a new dawn for it? Do you think they would have changed a lot, or is it still going to be the same game and people just won't be interested due to kind of previous reactions?
I got to say, I haven't really done my research on NetCar Pro. Like I said, I'm getting more into the sim community now. I haven't really heard of it, which is kind of annoying because I haven't really got anything to say or add to it. So I'm not sure about the Mike and Michael in here. I'm not sure what they have to say about it.
Uh, I don't really have. I've not really seen or heard much of NetCar Pro other than a few videos pretty recently, and it looks to be a pretty solid game as it is. And hopefully, if they're making a push for a release of it now, then maybe they've improved on various aspects of it, which is only going to bring better results.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing as well. Is a lot of same with rFactor 2. A lot of people slated it, but I think a few people forgot maybe that it is still in beta stage. It's nowhere near from being finished, and there's going to be bugs and stuff. And I think now Netcar's finally got onto the shelves. It's going to be a big step forward for them, knowing they've accomplished what they want. And we'll have to see how well it does in terms of sales, in terms of reviews, if more people decide to buy it, what kind of modding features, league features, multiplayer, that sort of thing it can bring. But I think it's definitely took a step in the right direction. So on to the next bit of news, and big bit of news actually. So a lot has happened from the guys at Codemasters, of course, making F1 2012 over the past couple of weeks. So the first major announcement they had was that RaceNet will be coming to F1 2012. Now, for those of you who don't know what RaceNet is effectively what I think is what Halo Waypoint is to the Halo series. It's a big stat tracking thing which allows you to track your careers. You can race against friends, tracks kind of friends' best lap times, how many races you've won, online standings, that sort of thing. And I think it's going to be a pretty big feature for them. Obviously, it's always nice to, as me, I think, personally, to, I mean, not just sim racing, but any sports game, whether it be Madden, FIFA, ice hockey, what have you. I'm a very statistical person, if you know what I mean. So I will go in and look at the in-depth ratings, look at statistics, or look at how many passes that's happened, or goals and shots on target, that sort of thing. And in sim racing, it's the same. You want to know how many laps you've done, how you've improved, how your lap times fare against others around you, realistically where you are in terms of your friends. And I think that now that RaceNet's coming to F1 2012, it's going to finally push that community towards a new level.
Oh yeah, like on my channel, I've been doing videos about Formula One games for a good 2 years now, and with RaceTech being involved and seeing all that stat tracking that they did, like with previously with Dirt Showdown, now coming on to F1 2012, it looks absolutely amazing. With your career stats, it tracks how many players in time trial or time attack mode, see how many players are in like the 1 minutes or 59s or 58, so that's really good to see. But RaceNet looks very promising, and I hope they do bring these like weekly changes like they did with Dirt Showdown into it, because that would be a really good feature. And to see that implemented, it'll be a lot more competitive, I feel.
Absolutely. Of course, the last thing you want from a game, really, as a player nowadays with all modern technology, is to get your game, get it home, and that's it. That's the only type of game you're going to play. There'll be no future updates, no patches, anything like that. And I think Codemasters have been pretty good in the past couple of years at patching, and you can be able to download maybe one every month or so, give or take. But I think with RaceNet coming now, if they do update this weekly, it's going to make it a lot more competitive, especially, for me. Personally, before I actually started getting into sim racing, I used to be quite a heavy kind of F1 2010, 2011 player, and none of my friends played it, and I was the only one sitting there, and that kind of took a lot away from the multiplayer from me until I got involved in a league. Now with RaceNet, you can see where your lap times are in relativity to everyone else. Now I think if you can do that, then you can start making friends. Then you can kind of open up this new community within the F1 2012 game, and I think with now the community as it is, you need to be playing with friends to get the maximum from your game, I think, or playing with other people online is the big thing. But it's always more fun when it's someone you know or someone in a league with you, that sort of thing, because then it gives you that competitive edge. You always want to do better. And I think that RaceNet's going to provide that and definitely spark up interest for people who haven't played online before and looking to make the jump onto it.
Oh, definitely. Like with the F1 2011, I did not play any multiplayer whatsoever because I did not know anyone. I couldn't find a league that fit around my schedule. But hopefully with 2012, I'll make more friends, especially as it's not on Windows Live now. It's through Steam, which is brilliant, and it will get more people known into that. And I do hope I can get into some leads because I feel I'm fast, and it'll be very interesting to see what kind of competitiveness I will be in.
Yeah, absolutely. So, also, they didn't really have a quiet read because they also released a video of the young drivers test. This was uploaded on the Inside Sim Racing channel, I believe. They've got the early build of the game because I don't think they're that cool. They've got great contacts, and it's great to see that as a community we get to see this content before we buy it and judge what they've done with it. And to be honest with you, I did doubt it. I did think that this young drivers test was aiming it too much at this new audience coming into it. But looking at it, I think they've done a good job because it's not like it's completely alienating that audience and dumbing the game down to stupidity levels of a 4-year-old where you press RT to go, LT to brake. Stop in the red bit. It's more technical than that. You have commentary from, a well-known Formula One commentator now after establishing himself, within the Sky broadcast. So everyone's going to be familiar with that voice, which again adds a sense of personality to it. The first thing you see when you're in the garage, you've got a helmet view, which makes that more personal to you. You feel like you are the driver. And again, it's been interesting to see how that's developed through the year. But the actual tests you do, I think, are quite similar to F1 Online, the game. Now, obviously, that's not a sim racing game at all, but it's still, again, made by Codemasters, and it's the same sort of thing, but a bit more technical. And they tell you, I think, what they've done very well and how to stop it from being too alienated down for the experts, but too professional for the new guys coming in, is they've given us almost like technical analysis of the car, how it does, how everything works in the car before you go into the test. So it will talk about the brakes, the aero, and everything before you do the first little test. And it's essentially get up to a certain speed and stop, which seems simple, reminiscent of the old Gran Turismo games. But of course, they've added that technical analysis in. It gets the dedicated players, the professionals, if you will, or the guys who are hardcore at the game, to not feel alienated. They'll feel familiar with it. They'll learn something new. It's not going to be like it's something for just a certain audience. Everyone's going to benefit from that, and that's exactly what they needed to do. I think. I think they've done a very good job there.
Well, I said to many people through Twitter saying I'm not going to be for me, I'm not going to be watching this stuff from the guys from Inside Sim Racer of this young driver set. It's just because I want to feel it for myself, how they feel. So I haven't watched it, but I've heard a lot of things about it. It does look good, and it's a great reference that you did with F1 on the game, because that was a great introduction to the game. It taught you the basic, how to use curbs, how to use DRS, how to brake, how to corner, and with this young driver's testing for 2012, it will get a lot of new people involved in the sport, which is always great to know because it's been so close throughout the season in Formula One, which they're racing at Monza this weekend. It's introducing new guys to the demo. Especially, it's great having it in the demo, so it gets a feeling of, can I do this? How can I improve on it? It just gives them a basic and maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So on to the next bit of news. And Project Cars, as we said earlier, have added Nordschleife to their track list. And with it being very hard, I think, to laser scan that track now, I don't think we're going to see companies like iRacing do it. But just purely because of how much effort and how much money it's going to cost to scan a track that large, while it will be utterly brilliant, I think Project Cars have done it well. And with the Project Cars engine, the graphics already, as we've said, they're stunning. So to see it represented in Project Cars is just amazing. I think it looks fantastic from the early screenshots. Still a lot of work to go. And Project Cars, once again, it is stands for Community Assisted Race Sim, and that kind of sums up that's what the community want. The admins in, the developers, while they obviously have the overall decision, the majority of the input comes from the community. And I think that's a big thing for a game. And to have Nordschleife in there, and to have some of these cars, like the Audis and things like that, it's going to be very, very good to see. I know a couple of my friends have bought it. They bought iRacing, they loved it, but their membership ran out and they just didn't play it enough. They're playing other games. They bought Project Cars and they haven't stopped playing it. They're, oh, Liam, you've got to get it, you've got to get it. And I'm thinking, I might do, see what the price does, because obviously you've got different levels of membership. But they're extremely excited that Nordschleife is coming. It's that feeling of you're shaping up a game, and with sim racing, that's more dividend than ever. You want to be able to shape the game around how you like it, almost how I think the car feels too twitchy. Change that, and they will. And if you can have a decision over what content goes into the game for free when you've got your membership, then that's just a plus. And I think they've definitely gonna done a good job in bringing one of the most renowned circuits in the world into it.
I'm looking forward to driving it because, like I said, I have got Project Cars, and I loved it from the ghetto. And just racing in the Formula A and Formula B classes, it felt at home. It's like the Formula One car. I just need to try and find this DRS and curves, even though it claims it has it on the steering wheel, but I haven't found the buttons yet, which is kind of annoying. But taking a Formula A class or taking like a Pagani Zonda round North South, which will be absolutely amazing. It'll be very competitive to get the fastest time. I can actually see that happening. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome stuff. I think I may actually have to invest in Project Cards at some point, or hint at some sort of giveaway. Hint, hint. But and I think that they're definitely moving in the right direction. Obviously, they're getting slowly closer now to the final build. Still there's new builds coming every week, and you can choose to donate right up to a senior member, and even beyond that, where you can actually almost shape the game yourself to an extent, and you can have your own AI named after you in the game. And it really does engage a community, and I think it really will be probably one of the best sims out there by the time it gets finally released. It's already nearly at that peak now, but it just keeps on growing and growing and growing and growing, and there's just no stopping it. So definitely great seeing it moving in the right direction. Now, talking of new sims and growing, Raceroom Experience have released 3 Q&A sessions about their latest title, and now we're so a teaser of the game, but by teaser I don't mean a trailer, an actual demo. You can download the demo of Raceroom Experience on Steam now, and with that one you'll get a fictional circuit and the Aquila CR1 Sports GT. And I think that they've made probably the best decision they could have there. Not in terms of making a demo, but I think that was a cheeky thing because they've released it on Steam. Now, for getting people into sim racing, Simbin, as we know, one of the most loved companies by the community, having it on Steam, Steam's got millions and millions of people. I think there's 10 million people have a Steam account. That everyone loves free-to-play games anyway. You'll always go on there, see what new MMOs are out, or you go and download Team Fortress or something like that. So now going on there to see Raceroom, which isn't an arcade racing game, it's a sim racing game, but a free to race as they call it. So I think this is going to bring in a whole new level of people who have perhaps been a bit skeptical about buying a sim racing game. They haven't quite got the equipment, or they think, oh, you need some super expensive rig. I don't have that. I've got to buy the game. My PC won't run it. With it free to play, you've got nothing to lose, and with it being on Steam as well, that's just adding more and more pros to the situation. And I think not only having a demo release before the game, which is fantastic, by the way. I mean, I don't have the best PC in the world, but being able to just quickly take a look at it earlier, I haven't really given it a full run through yet, but it looks brilliant, and I think they've done an exceptional job already. And as I said, to have that on Steam with, millions of people being able to look at it at the top of the free-to-plays, I think that's the best decision in terms of getting some bit of profit there.
Oh yeah, so when you sent me all these topics of news yesterday, I thought it's on now. I actually downloaded it last night and I quickly had to go at it, and it's pretty good. Graphics looks pretty good for a simping game. The simulation it feels good. Initially, I haven't really tried it fully, but I cannot find the assists off at the moment. I found the driving line, which is really good. That one features if you have a driving line on. Every time you do a lap, it actually evolves the driving line, so it tells you where you actually brake, not actually a constant line. Like in previous, I think it was a Race Pro, it just had one constant line, which it didn't adapt to different cars. But it's great to see that it actually adapted to your racing line and where you broke.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing as well, and that's a sign of a sim. As we said, it's not going to be a Ridge Racer style free to play where you can download off Steam and crash as many cars as you can and blow things up. This is going to be a sim, This is Simbin, as we said. They've produced, GTR. You got the GTR Evolution, Race 07, which has had God knows how many expansions, all of which have been brilliant. And obviously, I know Michael, you're quite into endurance racing and things, and must be quite a fan of Simbin.
Uh, I believe you're talking about asking me that. But yeah, I am quite a great fan of Simbin. I do have it on my Steam list right now. I used to B&B ATCC, but I haven't played it that much because obviously I've been focusing on rFactor and iRacing, but I do want to try and get back into Race 07 with a new league, probably head back to ATCC, try my hand there if hopefully it's not on days that I'm going to be busy.
Yeah, and I think as well, I mean, if Raceroom can utilize the online just as they have in Race 07, it was fairly good. There was a bit of lack of telemetry, I felt. It wasn't all up to date as rFactor where you've got the TV styles and stuff, but it got the job done. It was a sim, and I think if they can do that but just tweak it and perfect it, then you're going to be onto a winner there. So we'll have to wait and see when that comes out, of course. I think it should be within the next week the Raceroom comes out, so the suspense is slowly coming down and then you can all try your hands on it. And I'm sure, actually, if they do have some sort of league race, or we will try and organise some sort of live stream where all the viewers of the Green Flag podcast can come in, we can have a bit of a race and see what we think of it. And I think that that's going to be a big thing. And for free to play, you can't really go wrong.
Oh, definitely, it sounds a great idea.
So on to the final bit of news, and this comes from Forza 4. Same sort of thing as Gran Turismo. They have released some more DLC. This is the September Pennzoil car pack, and that brings you 11 new cars, and that comes from all the way the classic 1960 Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagato, up now until the 2013 Viper SRT Motorsport GTSR. So pretty much a lot of variety there from Forza. And I think the thing is as well, it's been a bit of a calm before the storm. I like to use that phrase a lot, but the PS4, the Xbox 720, or whatever the companies decide to call them, we haven't really heard much about them. The only thing we've heard in terms of consoles is the Wii U, and I don't really think we're going to see any racing simulation on a Wii U anytime soon. But I think that now, because there isn't any confirmed release date, I'd say you're looking at maybe 1.5 to 2.5 years before we have the next console, which means, Turn 10 and Polyphony won't want to start developing a game for the Xbox and the PS3 because by the time they develop it and publish it, get all the licenses and everything like that, the new consoles will be out. They'll be a generation behind and someone else will jump in the market. Now, what they're doing, I think, is being very smart, but it could get a bit tiring if they're not careful. Now, I think Forza are looking, I think, to do a car pack a month, which is fair enough. I think it's a very good, idea. But if they pump it out too often and it's content people don't want, they're not familiar with, it's just like throwing. It's like just going to a shop, buying some celebrations, and then giving you some little chocolates that are out of date. And it's just like, no, I don't like it. And you could lose potential fans, and I don't think that's what they need to do. They need to do car packs by all means, but get it for what the community wants, almost sort of like we spoke about earlier, how Project Cars are doing, but just keep not just two regularly, but just maybe every other month, just bring one out. So you're not completely killing the community, but you're building some suspense to it as well. Because you need more than a month to fully test all 11 cars and that sort of thing. If you leave it for just a month, it's just going to be, oh, more money, oh, more money, oh, you want a bit of suspense. As, oh, when's the new car pack? What's going to be in the car pack? And I think that would be the best option. I mean, Gran Turismo has been quite a while since they've announced some fully big DLC such as Silverstone. And with no future console on the way within the very near future, to say the least, DLC seems to be the only route forward, except obviously you've got Forza Horizon coming. But I think that they just need to kind of monitor it a bit because you don't want to go overboard and kind of alienate an audience.
I don't think it's the car packs. Like I've not really bought any DLC since my like little season pass with Forza ended really. But I think everyone what I'm looking at, they say they've got in the menu track packs and they haven't introduced any new tracks, and I think that would be a great little addition to it, like each month, or not each month because I can't really get the tracks out that quick. But it'll be a great addition to have a new track, what every 6 months or every 3 months or whatever. Just because we're getting new car packs, but and as you've seen in past ones, all those cars are eventually in the new game anyway. It probably all of them probably won't be in Horizon because that's a completely different game towards the casual Forza. But when the next Forza, when it comes out, all those cars will be in there. And, some of the cars don't appeal to me personally, but I think a track or with a slightly different amount of variations would probably be handy for Forza right now.
Yeah, I think what they could do is just announce something major, which not perhaps Gran Turismo have. Announce a 2012 spec Formula One car, okay? And then bring that out with perhaps a legendary track such as Zolder or somewhere like that, and just shake things up a bit. Or just bring out a legendary track where people will go, oh my god, this will be amazing, we have to buy this. This will really spice it back up. Then you're going to get the new leagues coming in. Then you're going to get that almost desire and passion for Forza back into the community who may be thinking, F1 2012's on the horizon. Why would you start spending money on DLC? When you can save that, buy F1 2012. I don't see why they don't try and bring out some sort of big blockbuster car, if you will, which is going to attract a very, very big number of people who are then going to, get that excitement back for the game, and that's what they need to do. Gran Turismo did it perfectly, I felt, with Silverstone. It's the home of racing, and I think that by doing that, you've brought back so many people who have thought, I haven't played Gran Turismo in a while. Bang, Silverstone, run back to the PS3, run down the shop, get your PSN voucher, and run back because that would bring such another level to it. And I think Forza need to maybe do that, just bring something that everyone's familiar with.
Now, I'm just thinking just now that Forza have got the Australian V8 cars now. I think I've heard that there is a new version of that car coming out, so I don't get why they can't put that new version in there and maybe put Zelda, like you said, and put it in there just to have a nice little feel and try and get new people back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So on to the next bit of news then. Well, I think that's just about rounding up, to be honest. So on to the league roundups. And we've got a few leagues together today, so we'll start off from the top. Obviously, last weekend, the Formula Sim Racing World Championship got underway from Monza. Morgan Moran really needed a victory if he was to try and keep those title hopes alive. And he did just that. He's made a hat-trick now after a very shaken-up race, to be honest with you. Of course, it was a very shaken-up qualifying. And Bonaquis and Moran started down in 5th and 6th, which is not where you expect them to. So that just shows you the strength of the midfield. But now, once again, we keep saying he's chipping away at that lead. Moran now has brought the gap down to a mighty, I think, 22 points, which is under a race victory. If you remember how this was a few races ago, it looked like it was almost impossible for him to win the championship. But this has got straight back in there now. And I think, personally, the biggest factor of these Formula Sim racing races now, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but I think that the biggest factor is that this midfield has hotted up beyond, all imagination. You've got the likes of Boldy, you've got the likes of Rietveld, Stoffel Van Dorn when he races. He's proved he can start from the back and work his way up into the top 5 and fight for a podium. And it's these drivers which are taking Miranda and Huis and just really shaking up, maybe slot themselves in between them, and going into the final half of the season now, wait for the final 3 or 4 rounds. If this keeps happening, and you see the likes of Rietveld on pole position, and Rietveld gaining race pace as well and gaining that consistency, being able to lead the majority of the race, it's going to stop the two title contenders from getting max points, which is just surely only going to add fuel to the fire.
Definitely. Like I've just started watching Formula Sim racing lately. Just watched from the first round to all the way to the latest round, and it is really, really interesting. It was really got me on the edge of the seat just watching these guys actually racing around these tracks and how fast they can actually go on great overtaking moves. It is going to be very close at near the end of this last couple of races in the season, and I feel a big explosion will happen eventually.
Well, hopefully it doesn't involve any of the title contenders, but I can see a really big underdog coming through here. And we spoke about the likes of Boldy and those guys all season long, and just how much they've impressed us and matured. Guys like Van der Linden as well, getting themselves in the mix occasionally. Frederick Nilsson when he was there, and it's just great to see that people are still there doing their job, and it's just really just because you have to work harder to keep up with the guys in front of you. So, cause say for instance, you've got Precision and Ghost Speed doing, a really good job up front. So then you'll have GT Omega trying to catch them. And then so they'll make sudden progress, which will make the other teams around them, like Twister, make progress, which will make ATR make progress. And it just all compiles up into this big, long train. And it makes some of the closest racing we've seen. Now, obviously, the World Series is very much the same. And Michael, I believe you still racing in the World Trophy?
Yes, I am.
So, how's your season gone so far then? Has it been what you expected?
Uh, Somewhat. I've been busy with real life racing. I missed no Monza and Spa. I had a very horrible start. Was taken out at the first corner, and but hopefully Nürburgring is going to be a good one, which is the next race of the season. Um, I hope I do well. It's a fun track. Really love it, but because I've been missing so many races because of my real life racing duties. I flag marshal at my local track. I'm pretty sure you guys heard of obviously V8 Supercars. Recently returning to Eastern Creek Raceway. That's what caused me to miss Monza. I really wanted to race Monza, but because of the time strains, I couldn't do it. Obviously, start of the season, brand new mod, couldn't get a hold of it. Um, Tracks such as Melbourne, I was very loose in the rear ends. Malaysia, very tight, and Silverstone, I could have had a good race there, at least tried to finish, but on lap 2 I was taken out by I think a newbie, and oh well, nothing you can do. And at Valencia, the racing was absolutely horrible, so I ended up spinning and stalling on the first lap.
Oh. Now, I think as well, I've received personally a lot of messages on Facebook, Twitter, that sort of thing, about guys who want to get started in Formula Sim racing, but don't know where to go, don't know about the mod, not sure if they'll be competitive enough. And Michael, obviously jumping into a new mod this year, it's it's a lot harder than it looks on the broadcast, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Uh, to me personally, I preferred the old last year's mod better because the rear end stuck to the ground, the front end stuck to the ground. It was perfectly balanced. This year, it's a lot more difficult, a lot more twitchy. But as the season goes on, the teams get used to it. The setups get more and more stable, especially in the latter half of the season. But people wanting to get into the Formula Sim racing scene, uh, you just want to start at World Trophy, try and find yourself a team, advertise yourself on race department, pretty easy. And teams looking for new drivers or new teams starting up will look for brand new people. Like how I started up, I was sim racing back in the latter end of 2009, um, using a keyboard and steering wheel. I'm pretty sure you guys heard of um, a form-based text game called Grand Prix Racing Online. I started sim racing there, got myself a reel. All of a sudden, I found this racing community, race department. Decided to go, okay, I want to try and do this. I'm still not competitive, but um, once you get used to the league, you'll probably end up leaving whatever team you started up with and move to a more competitive team, midfield team, and then maybe you'll get a very, very what's the word? um,
Front running.
yes, invite to the big teams such as Precision in the World Series and World Championship. So it's going to be pretty tough to get those, but if you continue pushing yourself to do well in the World Trophy, if you start out, you'll get those invites to the big teams, midfield teams, and slowly you'll be probably the next Bono Reese.
Oh, very possibly. So on to the other Mike's hometown now in Touring Pro Series. It's been two major leagues obviously got underway quite recently. The World Supertech Series penultimate round took a very different format this past week. Of course, it was the only oval on the calendar. And without Ivar Kalamies in the field, it was a real opportunity for teammate Tommy Nilsson to take a big chunk out of his lead. And he did that by taking a victory in the first race. Oh, the second race, I believe, actually, and then, but the other race, all eyes were on actually the last year's champion, Jack Keithley, as he's currently the only man to take a victory other than Calamies and Nilsson, so the only man who's not under a GT Omega bonnet to take a victory. This really, I think, leaving the blur, let me get my words out. Really close the title race up between the two GT Omega guys. There's no real other contenders in it, but between Calamies and Tommy Nilsson, just 7 points. Okay, now when you get situations like this in real life, you can see kind of other sides of the drivers when things get tense. But now, obviously, Mike, I think you know the guys quite well. Going into the final round, they're two teammates, both of them fighting for the championship. They're pretty much still the constructors. Are we going to see an all-and-out war between them? Will there be team orders, do you think? Are they going to, just say, okay, let's race best man wins? Or is it going to be just an all-out, maybe even some dirty tricks, maybe? What do you think of the situation?
I think that they're just both gonna go all at it, trying to get as many points as they can. I mean, maybe if other people like the THR guys, for example, get into the mix, then Calamies and Nilsson will have to actually sit back and think, will this move pay off, or will it, cost me to spin right down the order, or cost me a penalty or something like that could lose me the championship. So it will be a different race depending on who else manages to get involved. But if it is just those two that manage to break away at the front, then it will just be, they'll be battling the entire race.
Yeah, I
But
think.
as I go
Sorry,
on.
Mike.
But if other people get involved, it will make it a much more exciting race to watch, or to watch back even, because I plan on being racing in it. So yeah, obviously at the back, in a wall somewhere. But but yeah, it'll be great to you know it depends on the drivers which get involved. I mean, obviously, like Damien Henderson is also under the GT Omega umbrella. So if he gets him, so I don't expect him to be getting involved too much. But if he does happen to be leading, then obviously could be a few team orders there.
Yeah, I think the big aspect of this as well is that you've got to be careful. As you said, do you go for a risky move which could potentially retire you from the race, or do you just wait for a minute and wait for the time to come to you? I mean, in these situations, I think we can have empathy when the pressure's on, and incidents are quite easy to happen anyway. Just a slight lapse of concentration, you're in a tire wall, or you've spun around, or something like that. But when the pressure is as great as this, and there's a potential championship on the line, that risk almost gets greater because you're so focused on what you're doing and overdriving the car, and that you can just so easily, just easier than normal, just end up in the back of a tyre wall.
Yeah, or the fact that if you're overdriving the car, it'll wear the tires out, because it's a much longer race this time. So the fuel and tires will, I wouldn't think that stopping for tires will be out of the question, but fuel is going to be quite tight. You could make it on one tank just about. So, you obviously got to keep other things in mind. So I say it's no good leading the race by like 30 seconds and then running out of fuel on the last lap.
Absolutely, that would be catastrophic. So on to the next Touring Pro Series then. This was the Virtual Clio Series. Just got underway, well, the other day by the time you're probably watching this. So it was very interesting, season 3, and it was surely only destined for fireworks, to be honest. And it was 42 cars, we say, going round Snetterton, one of the fastest, tightest tracks in the UK. And it really did produce some of the greatest racing that I've seen in the kind of touring car format in a while. And it was a very exceptional day as well for the THR guys, with both Toby Davis and Chris Butcher taking a victory. And Toby leads the championship by 3 points on 58. And Jesper Tolberg isn't too far away from them on 51. And also, two guys which really impressed me was obviously one of your drivers, Mike, John Munro, and also NATO as well. So those guys are 4th and 5th. But, to come into a series as competitive as the Clios, no idea. I mean, we saw the likes of Ryan Callan slip a bit too far down the order in race 1, have to really work for it. Guys like Ben Davis as well in race 2, they had to really try and force their way back up the field. So to see these new rookies coming in, doing an exceptional job, it has to be said, to qualify high, but then keep it up there with the big guys as well, not be intimidated, by one of those decorated drivers in TPS, Jesper Tolberg, and really give him a run for his money. It's definitely a promising sign for you to watch, surely.
Yeah, and I mean, I was on TeamSpeak during the race. Unfortunately, lost connection in race 1, but then got back on TeamSpeak, started watching as a spectator, and just the amount that everyone was behind John on there, because it wasn't just MTR on TeamSpeak. We also had a few drivers from other teams just in with us, and it's also good to see like Miguel Neto adapting to rFactor, because everyone, or as people who would watch the ATCC would know, he's very good in on the race series, and these Clios are obviously front wheel drive, so they're a bit easier to handle. So it'll give people who aren't necessarily that good in rear wheel drives a chance at being in like the top 10, top 5, or even battling for the race win.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So, Mike, you're also racing, of course. So, how did your both races go? Obviously, disconnected in race 1, but race 2, was that any better for you, do you think? Or
Race 2, that was amazing. The battle that I had with Ben Davis, Tom Ely, James Johnson, Jonathan Alcaclin, Tom Novi. By the end, there was just a massive train of cars, and I absolutely cooked my tires. So I was understeering out of practically every corner. And when you got 3 THR cars behind you, that's a bit scary.
yeah, absolutely. And obviously, seeing that big train of cars around Snetterton, like, how do you kind of approach that situation? Obviously, it's not just one car breathing down your neck where you can kind of allow for a mistake and just drop one position. Is that pressure greatened, do you think, by having maybe 4 or 5 cars all breathing down your neck looking for the same move?
Yes, especially when there's a group of cars from the same team. I mean, obviously, further back in the train, I had one of my teammates, but right behind me, I had 3 cars from THR. So obviously, they'll be on the TeamSpeak channel, trying to see if they could all find an opportunity to get through. So you got to be extra careful with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we've got the virtual mini series as well coming up. Both Touring Pro Series and Race Department have one of them. The Race Department one gets underway tonight at 8:45 UK time, or 19:45 GMT. And you can watch it live on racedepartment.com/broadcast. Obviously, like, the Touring Pro Series one is on Game Stock Car, and I think it's going to be very good. So, how are you? Have you signed up for that league, or?
Yeah, I've signed up for it. Myself and Philip Antonia are going to be running as a team on there, so hopefully we could do all right.
And this has been a kind of question that's been on my lips for a while. People who run the GameStop car sim. Obviously, it is on the rFactor engine, but very much updated and pushed to its limits almost. So, what do you think of? Obviously did a big giveaway of it earlier on, but what do you think of GameStop car as a sim? Then, do you think it can compete up there with the likes of rFactor and iRacing?
Obviously I don't have any experience with iRacing, but GameStop car to me is obviously it's got less community modded content out at the moment, but that's because it's a newer game. So by the time it gets a bit older, people get used to modding of it, then it will easily top rFactor, I believe.
Great stuff then. So don't forget, if you haven't signed up to that already, or you want to get involved in one of these leagues, head over to touringproseries.com, and then there's very simple instructions there to get you involved and with a team. as soon as possible. But it's, I tried to qualify for the Clios, but couldn't quite find the time or the lap time. Indeed, because I was a bit busy and obviously just trying to fit it all in and be competitive. I mean, being, able to drive the car is one thing, but be competitive with the field as close as it was evidently another. So,
Yeah. I think before pre-quali, everyone was thinking, mid 57s would be enough, but it turns out you would need below a 57.1 to actually qualify in the end. It was ridiculously close.
yeah, so on to the final bit of league news then, and that's it. iRacing actually held 3 Spa events last weekend. Obviously, they had the Drivers' World Championship, the Grand Prix Series, and the World Tour, in which, the World Tour, anyone could take part. It was a full-length race of Spa, and that was really interesting, so I commentated on all 3 of those, so lucky I have a voice box left. But I think, overall, the World Championship really has taken a great turn now. Seeing these new guys coming through, such as Rico Alatalo, Stephen Michaels, Jake Sturgis, all establishing themselves as top 10 contenders and mixing it up with the likes of Hugo Luis and Gregor Hutu. So that's definitely taking a big turn there, and I think next season's definitely going to be more competitive. The Grand Prix Series is the almost race for the Pro Series now. It's the guys who are trying to get their Pro Series license for the start of next season. Obviously, need to be in the top 10 to get that one, so you just got to push even harder. The man who won both the Grand Prix Series and the World Tour was actually real-life driver Richie Stanaway. So for those of you who don't know who he is, or the name's ringing bells but not too sure where from, he actually drives in real life in the World Series Renault. I think it's a 3.5. It was actually involved in a bit of a big accident in Spa, and he actually suffered some back injuries, so he's been at home on iRacing, keeping his skills sharp. Sharper than ever. He took 2 victories there, so he did an excessive amount of Spa laps that weekend. So obviously using iRacing as a training aid, it's just, nice to see it being used by actual racing drivers in real life and saying that it can help them in, in their real life racing endeavors as opposed to just using it as a part-time. So on to the kind of big topic then. We'll see what the time's like. Yeah, so big topic of the day that if you're not aware or, avoiding all the paparazzi, there was some sort of sporting event going on in the UK about a month back now. And, you couldn't really walk out the front door without seeing Olympics or, when everywhere, TV channels, YouTube adverts, website adverts, merchandise. It was wherever you went, there was something about the Olympics there. Now, there's been a lot of talk, I know, in the past about, Olympic events, what should and shouldn't be classed. Golf's coming into it now, football, rugby's coming into it. Obviously, in the Paralympics, you've got your wheelchair basketball and things like that. So there's a wide variety. But what I don't get is why not have a motorsport Olympic thing? Now, obviously, we've got plenty. I mean, this would have been perfect. I mean, obviously, we've got plenty of UK tracks. We've got the likes of Brands Hatch, Silverstone, Snetterton, Thruxton, Knockhill, and some really, really great tracks, to try and stage some sort of motorsport event on. Obviously, we're not saying full speed Formula One cars, but I thought, I'm not sure about any of you guys, but maybe an A1GP style event and have a car represented by each country. A top driver from each country will compete, and then you have 5 heats, so maybe around each of the 5 circuits. You do 1 round at Brands, Silverstone, Knockhill, Snetterton, Thruxton, and then obviously the country on the race points at the end gets the medal. And I think that not only would bring a lot more people into motor racing, but I think it would be very interesting to watch, to say the least. It's motor racing as an Olympic sport. I don't see why it couldn't be done.
Yeah, that's very very good idea behind the A1GP thing. So there's no reason why they couldn't do that for the Olympics. Maybe in, I don't know, minis or something like that. That's a bit less expensive. So
I mean, obviously.
Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, obviously, they had the the BMXing and things as well, which was awesome to watch, just to see how much air they get. But again, that's not really. I wouldn't class it personally. I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with this, but as an Olympic sport, it's the same as skateboarding. You didn't really class it as an Olympic sport, so why not have motorsport in there? I don't see what, or why not have different heats? Have 1 round in a mini, 1 round in maybe a Ginetta, 1 round in maybe I don't know, maybe a Formula 3. Just go around like a variety of cars and tracks and have one guy from each country, for instance. So, for instance, in the Formula 3, you could have maybe the McLaren test driver, of course, or then you could go into the Ginettas and have someone, or then you go into like the Honda Civics and you could have maybe Matt Neal or someone like that. I don't see why we can't do that as Olympic sport. Obviously, all depending on who gets the country for the Olympics next year is going to probably be a big factor in terms of racetracks, but we were in the middle of London, and there's a few racetracks within touching distance. I didn't see why they kind of went for that. I think it would have definitely got a lot of attention.
I'm not sure about having motorsport in the Olympics. I'm not saying it's about. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I can't really see that happening. I don't know why. I just see a vision that it won't fit into the Olympics as such, and it may just be me, but for me, I don't think that's a good idea, really. I don't like them introducing golf to it because I wouldn't even class that as an Olympic sport, which is kind of bad. But you know, they just keep on adding sports which are not really an Olympic sport, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, we see, or you say golf and all these new sports coming in, which I mean, I didn't think BMXing would have been an Olympic sport. They had, a fake circuit there, to be honest. I mean, if there was mountain biking or something like that, then fair enough. Have them do like some sort of downhill sprint through a woods. That would be, amazing. It would take a lot more. I wouldn't say a lot more skill. We're not going to get into like a bike debate here, but I think they're kayaking as well on fake rapids, and that was all kind of man-made, and you had to try and maneuver your way through that, which was cool as a kind of time trial. I could see that working, but I think maybe even maybe like a rally event or something, or a rally cross, and just get something fairly cheap involved, and or mate, I didn't see, obviously you got the Welsh stage of the WRC and things like that. Why didn't they host the British stage of the WRC somewhere here during the time of the Olympics and have a kind of dual thing going on? That would be, obviously that's a big ask, but I think that could be pretty awesome because then you can, obviously the winner will get points towards the championship, but then obviously you have a medal system as well, which then draws more attention to WRC because a lot of people kind of not so much dropping off it now, but it's not televised nowhere near as much as it used to, and it doesn't really get as much media attention or the fan base also, or the new generation of fan base, if you say. I'm not going to mention any names or certain stereotypes, but someone says rally nowadays, if you go up to maybe a 12 or 13-year-old kid and say, "Oh, yeah, do you watch rally or something?" Or say, "Oh, is that Ken Block who does spins around cones and trucks and stuff?" It's just inevitable because that's what, these kids have been brought up on in terms of rally. And they think rally, they think jumping over lorries and spinning under diving things with explosions. And that's not what rally's about. You say Colin McRae and then you talk about rally. And I don't see why, something like rally could be an Olympic sport, because then that would draw a lot more attention back to rally, and people go, actually, why isn't this televised? This is insane. It would draw a lot more people back into it. They'll start appreciating it again, and it would finally get to see WRC get into that peak of what it was maybe 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah, well, it would be great to actually get the rally coming back into like televised because I cannot see anyone on TV now. I think you have to get it on a live stream or something. But
Or occasionally on like Motors TV or something like that.
Dave's always a classic.
but it like going back to the topic of the motorsport and the Olympics. It would be nice to have like a little like a triathlon type thing. You have to do like a time trial as such, and the best combined time will win. But like I said, I can't see motorsport becoming in the Olympics as such, but it would be like a good little idea that maybe you can have your own little mini Olympics in the virtual in the sim racing world maybe.
Well, if any Major League ambassadors are listening, I think they might want to take that idea on board or quickly copyright that one, Tom, because I'm sure
Okay.
someone could be onto it.
Make me the advisor, then I'll give you advice.
So. Michael, obviously you've been a bit quiet, so how are your opinions on the, motorsport in the Olympics? Could you see it maybe catching on, or?
I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, but all of a sudden, as soon as you did mention motorsports in the Olympics, I just thought of Bernie Ecclestone
Mm.
trying to introduce the medal system into Formula One. But
Oh
what
yeah.
what Tom ran into, uh, and also like yourself, having motorsport in the Olympics as a heat, as a race of champions type event, that sounds like a perfect stage for having something of this magnitude in the biggest spectacle of sports. Um, and yes, obviously having uh, best drivers for uh, the countries, you'll need to uh, do driver talent searches, which will obviously cost time and money because you don't want to get drivers that are in big racing sports such as NASCAR, IndyCar, British Touring Car, World Championship, Enduros, Formula One, even V8 supercars, because they have a big schedule in front of them and they don't want to take time out of it. So if this does end up happening uh, in the near future or late future, I think the best way to try and find driver talent would be via simulators, such as what Gran Turismo, the Academy, is doing. Getting everyday racers that just play Gran Turismo, Forza 4, Need for Speed, and getting them into this race simulation, going for a racing seat. That will be the best way to get drivers into motorsport if it ever does get into fruition. So yes, having it as a race of champions event style A1GP, somewhat no, but race of champions or rally stages sounds just about right because having them in different stages would be better.
Yeah, I was going to say, does the Race of Champions thing, I think that sounds great. It takes place at Wembley, for instance. It's stuff, some of the top drivers around the world. As you say, Formula One things, it could be a bit too expected because obviously they have very tight schedules, especially in the middle of summer as well. And even so, while they're on a summer break, it's still, not expected for them to come out and drive something completely different. So I think maybe, you're looking at the guys in Formula 2, GP2, not so much touring cars, but the Porsche Carrera Cup maybe, so people like that to come in. There's plenty of, young talent out there. And I think it would definitely help them as well because it would get them publicity from other teams. And, if you can put on your CV you won an Olympic gold medal, I'm sure a lot of teams would be, quite interested in that. And I think we could see it catch on. But as Tom said, I think it's going to take a lot of doing. And not me. I don't think that it's quite there yet. I think we need to see some sort of new revolutionary format before we actually start making progress there. But it's something to think about, and with more and more sports being added all the time, it's definitely a possibility for the future. So on to the final part of the show then. This is the Ultimate Drivers Test. For those of you who don't know what this is, I haven't seen any previous shows. This is 6 questions based on the guest's sim racing career as a whole. And it won't be kind of typical questions. It will be questions which are just outside the box thinking. We'll rate each question out of 10, giving you a final mark out of 60. So, question is then, who wants to go up first?
It's silent because no one wants to offer. Let me go first. Go on. I haven't got much of a sim racing career as such, but I'll try and do my best.
Okay then, right. So, question one: what's the most embarrassing thing you've done during a sim race?
Oh dear. The most embarrassing thing I've done in a sim race would be, I think I did this a little while back. I was actually live streaming. My first ever live stream was doing, and I was in a scene. You can actually see people to see, and we were just focusing, and I was actually constantly looking at the comments and just thinking, all right, what are people saying in there? But I'm not paying attention to the road. So as I'm looking, I'm kind of late braking and I'm sliding against the wall. Then I had a little touch with another guy, which he nearly spun. Luckily, he didn't. And then I then just made sure that I was actually paying attention. But I was just kept on looking at the comments. So I have no idea why.
It's easy to do though as well, especially if you're live streaming. You want to know what kind of feedback you're getting.
Oh
So,
yeah.
on to number two then. What's the wackiest livery you've raced?
Oh, typically, any race I've done has haven't really been a livery. Like with iRace, I create my own livery, so I've got no complaints there. But I think the wackiest one, what did someone give me on Forza? The wackiest one that someone gave me was it was like a green. It's like a green base, and then you had like pink stripes along it. I'm just thinking why you gave me that. It's just absolutely horrible. I beat everyone, so they all thought how you look like that and you go like slick, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't care about my livery. If I can go fast, I go fast.
They must have thought you was a girl racer.
Yeah, probably. But then when I got onto the mic, I probably had a big and massive shock.
Okay, go into kind of why they'll have a big shock. So on to question 3 then. Have you ever had to attend to something else during a race? So maybe a pet's run across your screen or knocked something over, or the doorbell's gone off, or the phone's gone off.
I think the way, I had to attend the when the door. I was in a race and I think it was like a about half a lap ahead of everyone, and we're all in the same car, so it's kind of like it's a bit hard to catch up if you do. And the doorbell goes off, and I think it was parcel force delivering something that they couldn't easily fit through the door, and I had to quickly go down, open the door, sign for it, put it on the sign, and quickly go back up. And as I was kept on going, the guy was right behind me, and
Oh,
it was so close. Um, but eventually, I think I made a mistake on it and it just spun. So I was kind of annoying about that.
oh, it's never good, is it? So on
No.
to number 4 then. Obviously, things can get slightly heated during a race. If something happens, it doesn't go your way, or you end up off in a tire. What's the best insult you've shouted during a race?
I don't really. I'm kind of like a cool and calm guy. I don't really shout and doing so. But so the worst one I can actually say was, what the hell did you do, you little bugger? That's all. That's all I can say. Like that was. I think it was that was kind of on my last stream as well. I was actually shouting bugger, 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 bugger. It's just going into a comment as I'm losing control with my arms up in the air. Just and then suddenly I recovered it, so I just quickly carried on, thinking that was a bugger. But oh well.
Okay, so on to question 5 then. What's the best way you've celebrated a victory?
Like I said, I'm not kind of like a in your face, like a sore winner type thing. Uh, the best way I celebrate my victory was probably doing a donut in kind of like my first ever oval win on like a tight circuit, actually coming from about eighth place. So I just done a donut. I tried to do it as perfect as I can, but I was ending up in the wall most of the time. So it weren't the best way, but it weren't the worst way.
Don't worry, your team didn't need that car anymore.
Nah.
Okay, so on to the final question then. What's your worst retirement you ever had?
Um, I th worst retirement, worst retirement. I don't really know actually. What I think in my head, worst retirement was my own doing. I shouted at. I think I was saying, "Why did you come over on me?" But I looked back and it was on, like the whole car was on the grass, which isn't very good when you get back onto the circuit. So then I had a bit of a oversteer moment, and then the guy was still aside me. So when I hit him, he had an oversteer moment. He corrected it, but then as he corrected it, he just hit. He just a slight tap. It just spun me and I hit the wall. That was the worst retirement I've had, but nothing major really yet.
Okay, so that's your test over then. Okay, so question is, I'll tell you how you scored and compare you to the other guys in a bit. So question is, which the other two Michaels wants to go first then?
I don't mind. I'll go first. Or
Okay.
second even.
Oh, you can't do that. Okay.
Yeah, alright, I'll go.
All right. So question 1 then. What's the most embarrassing thing you've done during a sim race?
Um, I think it was it was one of my first races with the Camaro Cup cars for a Racer 7 add-on. I think it was the first lot, so the STCC cars. And first corner of a race, at Watkins Glen, I spun it and I got stuck in a ditch. And
Ooh.
it was a 1 hour race. I spent that entire hour trying to get out of the ditch and then blew my engine.
What, the actual entire hour? Or?
Yes, literally. I was just stuck in this ditch trying to get out and it just wasn't happening.
Oh no. On to question 2 then. I mean, obviously, Touring Pro Series can be known for quite creative liveries. So, what's the best one you've ever raced, or the most kind of one that's out there and a bit weird?
Um, I think the weirdest livery I've ever tried to run. Obviously, it didn't get in, but because we changed it because of people complaining about it. But it was for a league I did on another website. It was in it was for the STCC2 add-on for again Racer 7, and I tried to go for a Tony Gilliam effect. So pink and green, and it really didn't work too well because I think I pushed the wrong button on saving. So basically, I had a bright pink, green, and blue car with bubbles all over it, and it just looked so bad. It was unbelievable.
Right, so on to question 3 then. Have you ever had to attend to something else during a race? Doorbells, random pets, or.
Um, Many phone calls. They've often been followed instantly by disconnects.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh,
Some people have that, yeah.
Yeah, like for example, race one at Cleo's.
Was that what happened? Was it a phone call?
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
traumatic.
someone else in my house answered it, and connection dropped.
We go like, no,
Annoyingly,
leave it,
I was
leave
doing
it.
quite well. Annoyingly, I was doing all right in that, but oh well.
Were you trying to shout down to him like, leave the phone, or do you just kind of like bank on them not picking it up?
Uh, I thought I'd fixed the problem, but obviously I didn't.
Okay, so on to question 4 then. What's the best insult you've ever shouted during a race?
Um, it's too many to remember, but I can remember the best one.
Well,
Uh,
if we say most creative, will that change it?
Not really, because that still leaves it pretty open for everything. I'm not sure what the most creative one I've ever yelled is.
Your favorite one?
Again, just simple stuff. My favorite one's like, "Oh, you bastard" and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, I'll have to
Oh,
mark you 0 on that one.
yay!
You've lost a lot of marks there. Alright, so on to the penultimate question then. What's the best way you celebrated a victory?
What do you mean?
So
What do
maybe,
you,
uh,
never had the chance to.
oh, well, oh. Okay, or a podium or a good result?
um, Crashed into the back of my teammate and blew my engine.
Standard, as you do.
Then said, "Does anyone want a barbecue?" While I'm just sat there on fire.
Oh, okay, on to the 6th one then. I think this may be answering question 1, but I'll try and get a different answer out of you. What's your worst retirement?
Oh, okay. It was on a fictional track called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was in Porsche Carrera Cups on rFactor, and it was a fantasy track, and there was a lot of elevation changes in it. There was this one massive hill, and if you and obviously it's got a you go over the top. Most people brake as they go over the top just to get grip. I thought, nah, I'm gonna try this, and I jumped, and there was a bridge the other side, and I hit the bridge, and I just flew into the air, doing barrel rolls, landed on fire, no wheels, and then slid on my roof off the track through a tree line and then fell off the map. Obviously, in our factory it puts you back on, but then I'm just there on fire, no wheels, basically no bodywork left. Everything possible is fallen off. The roof's caved in. The steering wheel's even bent. Uh, yeah. So
Oh dear. Okay, so on to the final man to take the test then, and last but not least then, Michael Gray, you ready?
no.
Okay, so even so, we don't wait for people here. That's just called sensible. All right, so
You
on
just
to.
simply get into it.
Okay, so question 1 then. What's the most embarrassing thing you've done in a league race or a sim race or?
Most embarrassing thing. Hmm. This was back in May. iRacing World Tour, IndyCar 5, well, the Indy 500, the big event. I was leading my division. We just recently had a caution. I wanted to go into the pits. I ended up passing the pace car before I got to the pit entry line.
Oh.
Well,
I'm not bullshitting. I was leading. I passed the pace car. Black flag.
Ooh.
Oh, that sucks.
And then after that, I ended up wrecking.
Alright, so on to question 2 then. I mean, obviously iRacing, you've got the chance to create your own liveries, or you can even, do trade in paints and add your own sponsors and things. So have you ever raced a wacky livery?
um, yeah. At the moment, I've got a very out there livery on Real Sim Racing. The Full Throttle Cup series, I currently have a Vocaloid skin, and that's the best out there livery I can think of because you just randomly have this uh, fictional singer on the side of my car and on the bonnet of my Chevrolet Impala.
Right, so on to question 3 then. Have you ever had to attend to something during a race?
Many times, many phone calls from my mother. Apparently, every time I'm in a race, midway, don't want to answer it. I want to just leave it ringing, but it might be important. I don't want to leave it, so I end up picking it up. I also had one race where I had someone at the door out of strangeness. I'm thinking, who the hell are you doing here? And I think, I can't remember where I was. I think I was leading. Didn't want to stop, but I was thinking, okay, I'll have to stop to get the door. And I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, it was my pizza.
Oh no, how did the race go after that then? Was it kind of poor, or were you eating the pizza while racing? Or...
Nope, I think I wrecked out as soon as the pizza arrived. So
Oh,
as
uh,
soon as I got back going, I ended up in the wall, I think.
well, everything happened for a reason. It happened just so you could enjoy some good pizza.
Especially from Pizza Hut.
Alright, so question 4 then. What's the best insult you've shouted during a race?
Uh, hmm, best insult. Don't forget, I am Australian. We all come up with funny insults. Um, think my best insult would have to be, um, well, I think we're gonna have to censor this.
Oh, I've got
Um,
my beep thing ready.
my best insult is, what the fuck have you been doing, you bloody um sheep shagger?
Oh, that's below the belt. Oh, okay, so on to the next question. What's the best way you've ever celebrated a victory?
Best way to celebrate a victory. So many. Just going off at the first corner, heading into the barriers, doing donuts, hitting the barriers while celebrating, or just randomly hitting people.
Slam into them.
I think the best way I've done it would have been just going around in circles and just saying, okay, I just want to damage my car just for the hell of it. Barrier, 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 head on.
Alright, so final question. What's your worst retirement?
Worst retirement. God. Back to real sim racing. The not I was about to say Shannon's Nationals, but that's a real race event in Australia. The Asphalt Assault Series. Third race in Watkins Glen. I qualified second. Um, would have done very well, but I ended up screwing up after I think, well, 8 laps. 8 laps. Qualified second. Can't remember exactly what I did. went into lost it either at turn 1, I think, or turn 8, and just screwed up my car big time. And Watkins Glen was one of the best tracks for me. I did well at in the full throttle cup series, even though I spun 6 times in the bus stop. Watkins Glen, second place, qualified second. Asphalt Assault ended up finishing 18th. Could have had my first win.
Ooh. Okay, so that's just about everything rounded up then. So I'll quickly run through the current standings before we reveal your results. So Brandon Warren still leads. This is out of 60 on 49. Second place is Nick Rowland on 45. Third place is Peter Monkholm on 43. Toby Davis on 42. And he's tied with Mike Conti and Ryan Callan. Chris Butcher's on 40. Rich Goodwin 39. Bradley Valian's on 38. Ryan Littlemore's on 37. And Ryan Walker's on 36. So question is, we'll do Tom first, because Tom was the first man to take the test. Where do you think you've come in that list?
Last.
Okay. You sure? That was a...
I'll say mid-table. I wouldn't say last, but I haven't really had much of a sim career as such. It's growing, but I would say probably mid-table, maybe in about 3/4.
Yeah, so you got 30. No, just 30. No, I'm joking. 37 you got, so you're tied 10th with Ryan out of 11, so it's alright. It could have
Yes.
been a lot worse. You're not last, so...
I want it to be.
Oh, you wanted to be last? Or...
No, that's cool.
Okay, so on to Mike Bell then. So Mike,
Hello.
you've heard the stats. Where do you think you've come in that sort of table?
Not a clue.
Do you think you've beaten Tom?
Probably not.
You
I
would have
Ooh.
if you didn't
If I
get a
didn't get a
zero for your
zero.
best insult. If you just said if you just said anything, even a cardboard box would have got you a point. And you, but you got 33, so unfortunately you're the man at the bottom of the table
Yay!
now.
You cardboard box.
Okay, so now that just leaves Michael Gray then. So Mike, where do you think you've come?
I'm not gonna lie, but for some reason I'm just thinking that you have a board right behind you with all the names, and you're just doing a Jeremy Clarkson. Where do you think you've come? I'll say he's equal with Tom, but just in front of Mike Bell. I'll say 35. I'll say.
You got 40 exactly, so you currently sit tied with Chris Butcher and 2 points off Ryan Callan. So only man today to break into the 40s. And, round of applause there, Michael.
Yay! Now let me just go get my champagne.
Okay, so I think that's just about everything from us today then. Thank you so much to everyone who's waited for the show. As I said, I was going to merge them together early on midweek or produce a little one, but obviously, I had college coming up and I had to get everything prepped. I had more broadcasts, so unfortunately a very busy week, and I can only send my most sincere apologies. I hope the wait has been worth it. And a big thank you as well to all of my guests today, Tom Stanley, Mike Bell and Michael Gray. Don't forget to go check out Tom's channel, the F1 Racing Mad. Plenty of content there for you. There'll be a link in the description. But just thank you so much, guys, for taking your time out of your busy schedules to do this. I know, actually, the two Michaels were actually trying to race while doing this, so kudos to them.
Who says trying?
I didn't get far. I ended up crashing out on the second lap.
Yeah, so once again, thanks guys, and don't forget that to check out our actual Podomatic site where you can download the show, or on iTunes as well, so greenflagpodcast.podomatic.com, there'll be a link in the description, and as well our website, greenflagpodcast.blogspot.co.uk. That's a bit of a mouthful, but we got there in the end. So from me, Liam, and my guests, it's been a very thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for the Green Flag Podcast.